There is a conspiracy theory floating around the internet that claims a prominent American family possesses secret time travel technology. The theory centers on former US President Donald Trump, and it also involves his youngest son, Barron. What makes this particular internet rumor unique is that it isn't based on anonymous forum posts. It relies on an eerie collection of verifiable, physical, historical artifacts dating back over a century. It raises the question of whether these connections are the result of a coordinated historical secret, or simply a byproduct of how our minds process random data. In the 1890s, an obscure American lawyer named Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a series of children's books. They follow the adventures of a wealthy boy named Barron Trump, who is guided by a wise, older master known simply as Don. Lockwood followed this up with a political novel. Looking at the cover text here, we see it's titled 1900, or The Last President. It tells the story of an outsider populace who wins the presidency, dividing the nation and sparking massive protests. The details in the novel are highly specific. The fictional protests take place on Fifth Avenue, exactly where Trump Tower stands today. The new president even appoints a cabinet member with the last name Pence. A few years later, a Prussian immigrant artist named Charles Delschau drew cryptic sketches of futuristic flying machines. Painted explicitly across several of these aircraft is the word Trump. An obscure 19th century author and a reclusive immigrant artist both recorded specific names, locations, and political dynamics that perfectly mirror the 2016 election. Everything converges in 1943 with the death of the inventor, Nikola Tesla. Hours after his death, the US government seized all of his research. Authorities were terrified that his theoretical death rays and advanced electromagnetic concepts might fall into the hands of Axis spies. To review these highly classified, potentially world-altering documents, the Office of Alien Property brought in a respected MIT professor. His name was John G. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle. 19th century literary prophecies, mysterious flying machines, and Tesla's classified research, evaluated by a member of the Trump family, create a perfect storm for internet mythology. To understand these documents, we have to evaluate them strictly within their own timeline. 1896 America was a deeply fractured, volatile political environment. The Last President was a direct conservative satire aimed at a real political star of the era. That target was William Jennings Bryan, a fiery populace who terrified the wealthy establishment. Bryan heavily championed the silver standard to help working-class farmers. In Lockwood's fiction, it is this specific economic policy that collapses the economy and triggers the riots, not a 21st century culture war. Even the specific names have mundane origins. The cabinet member Pence was a nod to Laith Pence, a real Colorado politician from the 1890s. And in the children's books, Barron and Don are simply aristocratic titles, not first names. Lockwood was writing a highly specific critique of his own 19th century present. The text has zero connection to the 21st century. The seizure of Tesla's documents in 1943 was a standard procedure driven by wartime paranoia and legitimate fears of enemy espionage. John G. Trump was called in because he was a highly respected electrical engineer cleared for defense research. He was tasked strictly with evaluating the scientific validity of the seized notes. After a 3-day investigation, his official conclusion was clear. Tesla's recent notes were purely speculative and philosophical. They contained no workable blueprints for hidden energy weapons or time machines. As for the Charles Delschau sketches, he frequently used his own eccentric coded language. Trump was a common 19th century term for a trumpet or a triumph, completely unrelated to a future political dynasty. When you place these seemingly terrifying anomalies back into their proper chronological context, the mystery dissolves into mundane historical logic. What keeps this conspiracy alive is a cognitive phenomenon called historical pareidolia. Pareidolia is the psychological tendency to see recognizable shapes, like faces or familiar patterns, in random noise. The human brain is hardwired by evolution to seek out meaningful patterns to help us survive. It desperately wants to find order, even in completely unrelated random data. This scatterplot shows the mathematical reality. When you have billions of historical documents and millions of names recorded over centuries, random statistical overlaps are practically guaranteed to happen. The theory relies entirely on cherry-picking. It requires you to hyperfixate on the 0.1% of Lockwood's text that resembles today, while aggressively ignoring the 99.9% that is irrelevant 19th century political rambling. The persistence of the time traveler theory says nothing about the Trump family. It reveals exactly how the human brain desperately wants to process history as a neat, predictive narrative. The modern internet acts as a massive coincidence engine. It can instantly scan through centuries of forgotten data, books, and diagrams to stitch together entirely isolated artifacts. This massive scale of access to raw information allows online crowds to build custom mythologies. They can construct narratives that perfectly validate exactly what their modern political biases want to see. The internet creates its own timeline by dragging random pieces of the past into the present, effectively manufacturing the future it claims to be discovering.